Most men don't lose women because they're unattractive. They lose them because they give away their power, without even realizing it. Every woman has an emotional flaw, a deep instinctive need for validation. It's not manipulation, it's nature. And the man who understands it doesn't exploit it, he masters it. While most men beg to be noticed, the rare few make her fight for their approval. That's when attraction flips, and she starts chasing him. Because power isn't taken, it's surrendered. And in dating, it happens every time you overgive, overtalk, or overprove. This isn't about control. It's about understanding how female desire truly works. In this video, one of the most important on this channel, you'll learn how to use this flaw in your favor. 7 Machiavellian levers that turn your approval into the most addictive force she's ever felt. Stay until the end, because once you grasp this, you'll stop chasing her, and she'll start chasing you. Here's the first lever to turn the emotional flaw in women to your advantage. You must understand that validation is currency, and only fools give it away for free. Every word of approval you speak, every look you give, every text you send carries value. It's the social gold of attraction. And just like gold, its worth depends on how rare it is. Most men never realize this. They hand out compliments like cheap flyers, begging for attention they'll never receive. They say things like, "You're beautiful, you're different, you're amazing." Not because they mean it, but because they hope it buys them favor. But women don't respect what they can buy with pocket change. They crave what feels earned. A truly magnetic man doesn't compliment to gain access. He rewards what aligns with his standards. He's not seeking to be liked. He's observing, evaluating, deciding whether she deserves his attention. His validation becomes a mirror, one she's desperate to look good in. And here's the paradox. The less you give, the more she wants it. Your silence becomes louder than another man's praise. Your indifference becomes intrigue. Your attention becomes a prize. Machiavelli would have warned you, respect is never demanded, it's engineered. He would have told you that when people can predict your approval, they stop valuing it. And that's why women test men endlessly. They're trying to see if your validation can be bought, or if it must be earned. When you become the man whose opinion isn't cheap, you shift the power dynamic entirely. She starts performing, not to manipulate you, but to impress you. Your approval becomes her emotional currency. Your attention becomes the drug she can't quit. And the more selective you are, the more her desire grows. Not because you're playing games, but because you've stepped into your natural position, the man who gives meaning to things simply by choosing them. So remember this. Every time you speak, you're spending something valuable. Make it count. Your words should feel like gold coins, not loose change. When she earns your validation, she'll feel it, not in her mind, but in her gut. That's when you stop chasing women, and they start chasing the feeling of being seen by you. Here's the second lever to turn her emotional flaw in your favor. You must absolutely understand the power of rarity and the art of restraint. A man who is always available stops being desirable, because desire, by nature, needs distance. It feeds on uncertainty, on curiosity, on the space between moments. And yet, most men destroy that space instantly by being too eager, too present, too predictable. They reply instantly. They text all day. They show up every time she calls, as if she were oxygen and they were drowning. But here's the truth. What is always accessible becomes invisible. Machiavelli would have told you, when something is seen often, it loses its awe. When it becomes rare, it becomes divine. And this truth doesn't just apply to power, it applies to attraction. The men who win women's desire aren't the loudest or the flashiest. They are the ones who create mystery, not by pretending, but by living a life that already demands their attention elsewhere. A man who's building something, his body, his craft, his empire, doesn't need to act busy. He is busy. His absence feels intentional, not forced, and that's what keeps her hooked. Restraint is not silence, it's strategy. It's knowing when to speak, when to withdraw, when to let curiosity do your work for you. Every unanswered message, every pause before responding, every moment you let her wonder where you are, all of it adds weight to your presence. But remember this balance. Too much absence breeds frustration. Too much availability kills tension. The sweet spot lies in unpredictability. Let her feel your presence deeply when you're there, and let her miss it fiercely when you're gone. When you master that rhythm, she starts to chase the next high, the next moment of connection, the next sign of approval, the next time you reappear. You become her unsolved riddle, her private addiction. Machiavelli would have smiled at such precision. He would have told you, appear less often, but always with impact. Because every appearance should remind her of what she risks losing. So don't flood her world with your attention. Let scarcity be your ally. Let silence build anticipation. Because when your presence becomes a privilege, your absence becomes power. And the man who masters both, presence and restraint, never has to chase again. He simply watches as the world begins to chase him. Here's the third lever to turn her emotional flaw in your favor. You must absolutely validate what others overlook, not what everyone else repeats. Every average man falls into the same trap. He tells her what she already knows. You're beautiful. You're amazing. You're not like other girls. But these words are hollow. She's heard them 1,000 times. They slide off her like water because they cost you nothing to say. She knows she's attractive. The mirror tells her every morning. Her phone tells her every time it lights up with new likes. The validation of beauty has become noise, meaningless, predictable, cheap. Machiavelli would have warned you, what is common inspires no respect. And that's why true power lies not in saying what's obvious, but in seeing what's hidden. The strategist doesn't praise the surface. He recognizes the essence. He notices what others ignore. The discipline behind her confidence. The patience behind her smile. The way she handles tension with subtle grace. When he speaks, his words carry precision. They strike like an arrow, rare, deliberate, unforgettable. Instead of "you're beautiful," he says, "I noticed how you kept your composure when things got messy." That kind of self-control is rare. Instead of "you're funny," he says, "The way you connected those two ideas just to make that joke, that's sharp. You actually think before you speak." These words hit deeper because they show perception, not desperation. You're no longer just a man admiring her looks. You're a man who understands her. And understanding is the most seductive form of validation there is. She begins to crave your approval, not because you inflate her ego, but because you make her feel seen in a way no one else does. You've shifted from being one more admirer to being the one who sees through the noise. Machiavelli would have whispered, "The eyes of the wise pierce where others only stare." When you validate what's invisible, your words gain the weight of truth, and truth in a world of flattery is intoxicating. Your validation stops being a transaction. It becomes a mirror in which she sees her best self reflected, and she'll chase that reflection because it only exists around you. Here's the fourth lever to turn her emotional flaw in your favor. You must absolutely learn the art of intermittent attention, the rhythm of giving and withdrawing. The strongest addictions aren't built on constant reward. They're built on unpredictability. That's why people get hooked on slot machines. Not because they win every time, but because they might. The next pull could be the one. The uncertainty keeps them coming back. Women operate the same way emotionally. When your attention is constant, it loses its power. She feels safe, yes, but not excited. And excitement, not comfort, is what fuels desire. Most men suffocate that tension. They give too much attention, too soon, without rhythm or restraint. They text her every morning. They compliment her every hour. They never let her wonder, never let her crave. Their attention becomes predictable, and predictable equals forgettable. The strategist, on the other hand, creates anticipation. He gives warmth, then distance, connection, then silence. He lets her mind replay the last moment, wondering if she said something wrong, wondering when he'll reach out again. He becomes the mental slot machine she can't stop pulling. Machiavelli would have advised that power lies in the balance between generosity and control, that the ruler who always gives is loved briefly, but the one who gives selectively is remembered forever. Your goal isn't to manipulate, it's to manage tension. Because attraction dies in routine but thrives in rhythm. Give her the dopamine hit, then make her wait for the next one. It's not cruelty, it's nature. Our brains are wired to chase unpredictability, and a man who understands this owns the tempo of every interaction. So don't text back instantly. Don't reveal everything at once. Let her wonder, what's he thinking? Instead of, he's always there. That's how desire grows. Not through words, but through suspense. You're not withholding attention, you're sculpting it. And when done right, she won't see it as a game. She'll just feel a growing pull toward you, without knowing exactly why. Here's the fifth lever to turn her emotional flaw in your favor. You must absolutely validate what she does, not who she is. This difference may look small, but it's everything. Most men validate a woman's identity. They say things like, "You're amazing," "You're perfect," or "You're not like other girls." It sounds sweet, but it's a trap. Because when you validate her identity, you place her above you. You make her the prize, and yourself the admirer. But when you validate her actions, you reverse the power dynamic. You become the one who sets the standard. You're not saying, "You are incredible." You're saying, "What you did was impressive." See the difference? The first gives away power. The second reclaims it. A strategist understands that his words define the frame of every interaction. When you validate her behavior, you communicate that your respect must be earned through action, not presence. That's what makes your approval valuable. She begins to see you as someone whose judgment matters. And once a woman respects your judgment, attraction follows naturally. Machiavelli would have warned you never to praise someone's essence too easily, because it makes you their subject. But to reward their conduct, when it aligns with your standards, is to remain the judge, not the follower. So stop telling her she's special. Start acknowledging what she does that proves it. If she shows kindness when no one's watching, say, "I like how you handled that." It shows integrity. If she makes you laugh with something sharp, tell her, "That was clever. I didn't see that coming." You're no longer throwing compliments into the void. You're shaping behavior, setting tone, defining value. And here's the hidden power. When you validate actions instead of identity, she starts chasing your next validation. Because now it's something she must earn. That's how influence works. Not by demanding attention, but by giving approval so selectively that people compete for it. You're no longer the man trying to prove his worth. You're the man whose standards define the game. Here's the sixth lever to turn her emotional flaw in your favor. You must absolutely become the man who doesn't act like the prize, but knows he is. Everything you've learned so far collapses without this, because technique without mindset is just performance, and women feel the difference instantly. They can sense when your confidence is borrowed, when your calm is forced, when your silence is strategy instead of nature. To master attraction, you must first master yourself. The strategist doesn't chase validation because his life already validates him. His value doesn't come from her reaction, it comes from his direction. He's building something, his mission, his body, his mind, his legacy. And because of that, every interaction feels different. He's not waiting to be chosen. He's simply deciding who fits into the world he's already creating. Machiavelli would have whispered that the greatest power is self-sufficiency. The man who stands alone commands more loyalty than the one who begs for approval. The moment you internalize this, your entire energy changes. You no longer try to impress. You no longer over-explain. You no longer chase reactions. You walk into every room with quiet certainty, and that silence speaks louder than words. The mindset of the strategist is simple but unshakable. You do not give validation to receive attention. You give it as a reward, because you've decided it's deserved. You do not seek control. You already have it, because your emotions obey you. That is what separates the men who play the game from the men who are the game. When your validation is grounded in your own worth, it becomes magnetic. She doesn't feel like you're performing. She feels like she's earned something real. So build your kingdom before you invite anyone in. Because when your foundation is solid, her interest becomes a bonus, not a lifeline. That's when attraction stops being effort and starts being gravity. Here's the seventh and final lever to turn her emotional flaw in your favor. You must absolutely wield power with purpose, never ego. Because every principle you've learned, controlling validation, mastering tension, reversing the chase, can build or destroy, depending on the man who uses them. And what separates a manipulator from a master is one thing: intention. The manipulator uses power to feed his emptiness. He complements to control. He withdraws to punish. He plays games because without them, he feels invisible. But the strategist? He plays with clarity. He gives approval to inspire. He withdraws attention to preserve energy. He challenges her not to dominate, but to awaken her best self. That's the difference between hollow tactics and true influence. When your validation is rooted in authenticity, your calm becomes contagious. When your presence stems from discipline, not arrogance, she feels safe and intrigued. And when you understand power as responsibility, not exploitation, you become the rarest kind of man in her world. Machiavelli would have reminded you that power without control destroys its wielder. But power used with restraint, with precision, creates loyalty, desire, and respect that no charm could ever buy. So never aim to win a woman. Aim to lead every interaction toward truth. Because the man who doesn't fake warmth, who doesn't weaponize silence, who doesn't chase, but moves with intention, becomes unforgettable. You've learned how validation works. You've learned how to ration it, how to time it, how to ground it in strength. Now the final shift is this: stop using power to get something. Start being power itself. Because when your words, your pauses, and your energy all align with purpose, you no longer try to attract women. You attract everything: respect, loyalty, and peace. And that, my friend, is the ultimate transformation, from a man reacting to emotion to a strategist orchestrating reality. You're already ahead of most men just by making it this far. This message is already working on your mind, even subconsciously. But if you listen to the rest and truly apply it, you'll become a new man, genuinely. Every man wants to be desired. Few ever learn to be remembered. And that's the quiet difference between boys chasing approval and men who rewrite the rules. When you understand the emotional flaw, that hunger for validation, and learn to channel it instead of feeding it, the entire game changes. You stop performing for attention. You start commanding it by existing in your truth. You've learned to validate the invisible, not the obvious. To master the rhythm of attention like a strategist pulling invisible strings. To praise effort, not essence. To live from grounded power, not desperate need. And finally, to hold all of it with intention, not ego. That's not just attraction. That's control over perception itself. Because the most magnetic man isn't the loudest one in the room. He's the one whose silence changes the temperature of it. Machiavelli would have told you that fortune belongs to the man who controls himself first. And if he were watching you now, he'd nod. Because you've learned what most men never do, that real influence starts where words end. So as you move through the world, don't seek to impress. Don't chase reactions. Just walk with that quiet rhythm of a man who knows his worth but doesn't advertise it. Because when you do, she'll feel it. Everyone will, and they'll wonder, what is it about him that feels so different? The answer, my friend, is simple. You've stopped trying to win her world. You've started ruling your own. If this opened your eyes and you're serious about becoming the man who's in full control of his life, my book is now available. The Undeniable Man, Built to be Chosen. It's a strategic guide for men who want to attract, lead, and dominate in their love life and beyond. Whether you're single or in a relationship, no fluff, no tricks, just pure, powerful strategy that will set you apart from 99% of men, and that you will actually use every day. The link is in the description. And if this video spoke to you, don't just keep your thoughts in your head. Write a comment, even just a few words. It helps you remember these lessons, and it might help someone else too. Hit the like button if you enjoyed this content, and share it with someone who, in your eyes, needs it right now. Just trust your instinct. We're all trying to get clearer, more solid inside. So let's build minds that don't break.